Hello everyone, OT Life Hacker here. To all of you new people here, in case you're wondering what is OT Life Hacker about, are you hacking my YouTube? No, guys. That's not the case. OT Life Hacker, our channel, our community, is all about helping people understand what occupational therapy is, what it brings to our community, our society, in ways of learning about the occupational therapy student journey, in ways of learning about occupational therapy as a whole, and also some fun side stuff of product reviews and snack reviews, and figuring out ways to make life easier for yourself through sleep hacks and other hacks that will continue to grow in this channel. So please do like and subscribe. Thank you guys, and thank you to our ohana that we have already. Ohana in Hawaii means family, as I'm sure many of you know, and I am from Hawaii and so glad and thankful to be from there. So now let's get into why you clicked on this video. Pre-occupational therapy tips. I've had some people asking me on my OT Life Hacker Instagram. So if you have any questions, you can find me on OT Life Hacker Instagram. It's OT_Life Hacker. And you can also write in this video your comments, questions you have, and all of the community can answer. Now remember, I am still a student and still learning, so I'll be sharing with you from my student perspective. If you are going into occupational therapy or interested to pursue occupational therapy, there are many different avenues that you can take. And so there is occupational therapy school, there's occupational therapy assistants, and there is the Doctor of Occupational Therapy, Masters of Occupational Therapy, and I believe still Bachelors of Occupational Therapy, especially in other countries. Now, today's topic is going to focus on OT school, OTA, Occupational Therapy Assistant School, and something I just learned recently from the people I've been talking with on Instagram, OTA Bridge School. Isn't that cool? How many of you guys know what OTA Bridge School is? Write in the comments below. I found this very new and interesting to me. But I'm sure if you are interested in occupational therapy assistant and occupational therapy school, you guys probably already know about this, right? So let's break down first the difference between occupational therapy school and occupational therapy assistant school. Which do you want to choose? So some of the differences, some of the key differences in terms of practice is the occupational therapists can do the evaluations for the patients, clients in the schools, in the clinics, in the hospitals, rehab centers, nursing facilities, in all settings. Occupational therapists can do the initial assessments, the reassessments, do the assessments, you know, the objective and somewhat more subjective, well, more objective, I should say. The objective assessments of, like, say for example, the cognitive assessments, or depression assessment scales, stuff like that. Occupational therapists are able to run the assessments and interpret, score, and report, make the reports. So they do a lot of documentation. Occupational therapy assistants can also help in doing assessments if they are very qualified, have a lot of experience. I know of a lot of occupational therapy assistants, well, certified occupational therapy assistants, who they have been working so many years already. They're well versed, well experienced with assessments, and they do the assessments. And then we can, the occupational therapists then interpret and score those assessments and write up the reports. And so occupational therapy assistants do a lot of the treatments. So say the occupational therapist sets the plan, they do the initial assessment, and they come up with a plan for the patient or kid, whoever they're seeing. And then the therapists, therapy assistants, they then carry out the interventions in how many times they have the freedom to choose how they approach doing the treatment, as long as they're achieving the goals. And then occupational therapy therapists also do treatments, but again, a lot of times they're going to be pushed more, priority is in the assessments and evaluations, because they are very highly skilled, particularly to do that. I mean, definitely to do everything, the treatments, but in a sense, you know, you're getting paid to do the more skilled, in a sense, evals and assessments, things that the OT assistants are not necessarily being paid to do, you know, the scoring, interpreting, and all of that. And if you are an assistant or a therapist and maybe it's different in your setting, do share, because I've heard there's like, you know, there's kind of some differences, and even in terms of laws there's differences. Now, let's get into education. So education, occupational therapy is at least, in the US, as far as I know, at least 4 years, because you have to do your bachelor's. And tell me in the comments below, do we still have a bachelor's program, bachelor programs that are accepting students? From what I've heard, and when I was applying, when I was working on applying, I chose master's and doctorate because there weren't much, I don't think there were really any bachelor's programs when I was looking. And also, so master's programs are eventually, from what I think it was on the AOTA or somewhere I saw, that eventually they'll be phasing out the master's program. So that's why doctorate is like the golden standard now for many places. But of course, the master's program is still up and running and good to go. So master's would mean that you have to do your bachelor's, and then you do at least 2 more years of school, so that would be 6 years. And then if you go for doctorate, that would be 4 years for the bachelor's, and then at least, again, 2 years, probably at least 3 years. I feel like most doctorate programs are at least 3 years, because you have your regular like master's stuff, and then you extend off to doing the research portion too. And then associates is associate's degree. So you really only need 2 years of schooling for this, at least in the US. And occupational therapists versus occupational therapy assistants, keep in mind there are career differences, advancements. So if you're looking for more of leadership roles and having more responsibilities, leeway, being your own boss in a sense, you have, again, more flexibility being an occupational therapist. And then, and again, share your comments, share your experience below if you are an OT or OT assistant, related to career advancements and what you've noticed about that. Life goals. So that's the other thing, is that it's important to know where your values lie. Do you want something that you can really grow a lot in, and you'll probably even be paid more as, I mean, not probably, you'll be paid more as an occupational therapist? Will you be okay on a salary of an occupational therapy assistant? I know a lot of people who are occupational therapy assistants and they're doing fine financially. But it's up to you. If you want more like continuously growing in other aspects, maybe occupational therapist is something you want. You want more of that education, more of that formal, like knowing how to do assessments, having more responsibility, right? And then graduating with your bachelor's. So this question I was asked, really good question. If you're graduating with your bachelor's now, should you do OT school now? Should you go straight into OT school? Or should you go for occupational therapy assistant, and then after that, after you finish occupational therapy associate's degree, then go to the OTA Bridge program? So as far as I understand, and share your thoughts on this too, what you know about the OTA Bridge program. From what I've researched, the OTA Bridge program is there's schools that will take you into from straight associate's degree into, I believe it was master's, or I think it was mainly master's that I found, into a master's program for occupational therapy school. And I found that very interesting because or was it bachelor's? I gotta double check that. But for those of you guys who do know it, write in the comments below, because I'll have to look that up again. But I was very surprised because I didn't know you could go straight from OTA to going into OT school for like a graduate degree without having a bachelor's just yet. That's so interesting. But so that's how I understood it. And the thing, however, when I looked at that, there's not many schools for OTA Bridge programs that are accredited. And so that makes it a bit harder, because your chances, almost from what it seems to me, it seems potentially slimmer if you go from OTA to wanting to go into straight OT school without having done a bachelor's degree first. It seems hard because I imagine it's very competitive. And granted, all of this is very competitive, but it's very competitive especially because you have less supply out there, less of the schools, but high demand. So that's something to consider, that it might be more challenging. And also, many times people say it's hard to go from being a student, then working, and then being a student again. So many times I hear of OT assistants thinking about wanting to go back to school, but then they're like, oh, you know, how am I going to make this work with work and all that? And I do have a friend now who, she is going back to school, and she kind of has to, she thought, oh, I could do school and full-time work. No, she had to cut back down, and it's getting really hard. So I'd be very, since you are now in the point of you're graduating or you're about to graduate, I would, and especially if you already have a bachelor's, I would honestly go for a master's. I mean, go for the occupational therapy school first. Try to apply, and if you don't get in this year and think, oh, you know what, I could probably be fine as an occupational therapy assistant, that's perfect. I mean, that's still a way to get yourself grounded in understanding, like, oh, do I want to be an occupational therapist or occupational therapy assistant, anything in the OT field? Check it out. So this person, again, is already getting their bachelor's, so why not already try for OT school? And if they can't get in, then that's fine. They can go to OTA school, and then they can do the OTA Bridge, and they can even do Masters of OT. I mean, applying for the Masters of OT programs again. Like, there's so many avenues if you already have your bachelor's. And so the other thing is cost. Now, this is, of course, a big thing. Cost is something that, you know, OT school up front is really expensive, especially if, say, someone like me who came from Hawaii and had to go branch out to the mainland, or I mean to somewhere else, then it's kind of much more scary, I would say, cost-wise, because you have to pay out-of-state tuition and all of that. But you can look at many different avenues. Say, for example, for Hawaii, there's this thing called, I think it's WICHE, W-I-C-H-E, something like that. And that is where if your state doesn't have occupational therapy schools, then you can apply for this in-state tuition, like grandfathered in to have in-state tuition in the state school that you'll be going to. And then time frame wise, oh, sorry, the last thing I want to say on this, cost-wise, think about it as, yes, it's going to be expensive. You can get student loans, but the process might even be a little smoother if you go straight from school to school and then working as an occupational therapist or as an occupational therapy assistant, if that's what you choose to do for either one. That's fantastic. So you have to go back to school again. It's totally up to you. But personally, I feel like that makes it a lot harder to have to jump back into another role as being the student again and what have you. Granted, we are always technically students learning in OT and any healthcare field or really anything. Okay, so time frame wise, yes, we already talked about one's more OT school invests more time, but then OTA and OTA Bridge, you're also potentially investing more time. And what if you have a gap period because you're not accepted into OTA Bridge programs at that time and you still want to go into OTA school, become an OT, so then you have to go back for your bachelor's and stuff like that. So it's not to say it puts a cap on you if you go into OTA school without a bachelor's degree, but it does mean that you then have to like reprioritize and re-coordinate your schedule and everything. And then again, career goals is knowing where you stand on this. Are you okay being the occupational therapy assistant, or do you want to be an occupational therapist? What in your career do you want to get into? Oopsie. Oops. And then life happens. So guys, that's the biggest challenge with why it's hard to go back from school to becoming, from working to becoming a student again, because you might be having a family, might be having kids. It's going to be hard in your fieldwork if you're bearing children. And you have to do transfers when you're pregnant. Ooh, no, not fun. So there's a lot of things to consider. And if you have questions, you can always message me on Instagram. Find me, OT Lifehacker, OT_Lifehacker. And before you do that, do like and subscribe. Mahalo. And do also share your comments below. And I'm gonna do more research into that OTA Bridge because it's so interesting. I really didn't know we had that. So do tell me what you think of the OTA Bridge program and if you have applied to it or what your experience and knowledge is with it. Do share because everyone is very curious to know. All right, so like, subscribe. See you later.